A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Survival of No Limits. And now today we're going to be going through quite a bunch of new stuff here. Actually, 3 other things that I have to talk about based on life stories that are true, effective, informative, and compelling at the same time. So let's go ahead and talk about something different right here. Foreign accent syndrome, check. Bird flu, check. Deadly fever, check. Ankle rolling, which could have possibly ended up in me getting killed as well, check. And this time, let's talk about something a little bit more recent. How about between August and November of 2020? A full year ago. Man, let me tell you. That year itself had a lot of bad things happening. It had a lot of things taking place. But I just cannot stress it enough by simply saying it was a good year. A year where a lot of opportunities would arise amidst the enormous changes that have been brought upon us. Extreme business closures, unbelievable amounts of lockdowns and all that good stuff essentially gave us a lot of different things that we could focus on, so this way we could cope with these things. Like, there's a lot of things that I have basically done throughout 2020 that were just that good. I mean, there were tons of things out there that I had done. Job opportunities, skill improvements, and a lot of other creative inputs I was able to put together. And not to mention, I was saving money like crazy throughout that year. But at the same time, I will go ahead and just simply address the things out there, like the official calling of the NCOV pandemic 2019 to 2022 was around throughout the majority of 2020, and then of course there was the death of George Floyd. It brought upon systemic racism, controversies all over the place, and who could ever forget? By a political standpoint, 2020 was in fact a huge deal to a lot of us. So, I don't really know at this point. If I were to talk any further about that exact thing, then I probably would have gotten in a lot of hot water by any means. But again, if I were to count up all the things out there that would pretty much be bad, then I'd pretty much have to have only one hand to do so. So the pandemic, systemic racism, the political stuff, as well as, let's just say, how about all the stuff out there relating to the almighty Karens? Yeah. And if you're wanting to know what Heidi's are in comparison, well, let's just play a clip of one of them, shall we? Yeah, so the thing is, Heidi's were indefinitely worse than what Karens had pulled off throughout the entire year of 2020. But a fifth and final thing I will go ahead and address out there that I would indeed consider a bad memory, at least, would be the fact that, well, let's go ahead and point down at the feet again, shall we? Because, let's just go ahead and say that this is another infliction that I basically had on my right foot. Basically speaking, mid-August of 2020, which was around the same time that I was getting ready for a lot of things relating to gaming with Kaiju Force Neo, content production, I was revisiting a lot of older titles left and right, including Heavy Rain, PS4 edition, Batman Arkham Knight, Until Dawn, and I was even getting back to a lot of Ark Survival Evolved after about 7 or 8 months off that I had taken on it. So at the point in time I was doing a lot of GWK stuff, I also had a lot of other things I was working on, including the production of Nerf Secret Revealed Bolts of Intrigue, which I still consider to be my very first ever adaptation-related film project. And it was the 6th official project that I had when it came to filming out there, with the other 5, including films that I've done over the years, like Blue Mare from 2008, 3334 from 2014, and A Day in One's Life from 2017, which at the time, that was the latest production I had. But in 2019, I attempted to create a Nerf Secrets Revealed related adaptation, a full-length feature film that would in fact continue on after the series itself would come to an end, which I planned for in July 2020. But a month after I had ended the official Nerf Secrets Revealed web series, which had been going on for over 7 years, I ended up having a pretty bad injury to one of my toes. I essentially sliced up, well, the nail on one of them, the first one, right here, of course. I sliced it up, and I was bleeding out of that spot. But then, of course, after I was able to staunch the bleeding with some gauze, toilet paper, and I even had some antiseptics on me to be able to keep it clean and all that to prevent any infection, I then went on ahead and banged on it very hard on a corner of the piece of furniture. So that right there was pretty bad. I mean, I sliced up my toenail and I banged on it, which caused a lot of horrible bruising. But little did I know that eventually, while I figured that that was all over and done with, and I would eventually recover from that whole entire thing, little did I realize that it would all start coming back again. But this time, it would be even worse than the first series of injuries that I had unintentionally inflicted on that one toe. As a matter of fact, it got very unbearably painful. Even with just aeration going down to it, I could barely go on without, trying to find out how to way to release the pain because it was just bad. I've eventually found out it looked very much infected. As it turns out, as I was eventually able to get into the doctor's office, by September, over a month later, that I would in fact have to undergo a surgical procedure because apparently I sliced up my toenail and then I banged on the side of it that it was already bleeding from. And the swelling itself had caused the nail itself to become ingrown, and at the same time, the wound itself had gotten fungus at some point. It might have had something to do with the many things relating to fungal diseases that I've gotten, most of which are hereditary. But the truth is, it was a double whammy followed by another double whammy within only just 1 month throughout 2020. So a lot of GWK production had been underway throughout August and September 2020, and then a lot of stuff relating to film projects and other such stuff that I had in my life were done throughout 2020. But this was another thing that I had to learn to deal with. Because, like I said, my doctor, my newer doctor, of course, whom I had seen months prior in February 2020, where I also got myself a blood test to go through a full health analysis, which I eventually got the paperwork on that same year, but many months later. But before that even happened, September 2020 was when we met up with the same exact doctor, and I was told I would need to have a surgery the following month because October 2020 was a time where I was not only close to finishing up the entire production of Nerf Secrets Revealed Bolts of Intrigue, albeit with many problems and complications that I had with that whole process as a whole. October 2020 was also the same time where I would also have one last trip, Fort Myers, Florida, in which this right here, it's one of a few pieces of evidence that I've been down there. And if you basically were to look at all those photos that I've taken and a lot of other stuff I was able to get my hands on, then well, you'd probably know for yourself exactly what that's like as well. But the thing is, after my trip from Fort Myers was over, after a lot of pain I've had to deal with, and after a lot of complications I've had to try and get together, the operation eventually came around. A professional podiatrist came around and started giving me some very experimental cocktails. Various different anesthetics and numbers and painkillers were basically administered to the site of that wound before the operation was underway. They intended to cut a large portion of the ingrown nail that had came down after that impact that had happened. The bruising had caused the nail itself to become ingrown, and as a result, because of the way that it was angled down towards the bone itself, it had to be removed. That large chunk of the nail itself had to be removed. It only took a few minutes for that to take place. But after that was where I was given a set of instructions on how to properly recover from the whole entire thing, through a combination of Epsom salt and hot water treatments, where I would give myself a foot bath every now and then for up to a full month. And then by mid-November of 2020, about a month after the operation itself had taken place, I had fully recovered, and my podiatrist said I was free to go, pretty much. And that was it. So all in all, between August and November of 2020, it was a big point in my life where this is yet another encounter that I've had with another potentially fatal situation where the nail itself could have gotten ingrown and grown through the bone, possibly caused gangrene, which would have then led to bacterial infection or otherwise, and would have then rushed up to other parts of my body and would have led to extreme levels of sepsis. But that's just one possibility of many things that could have potentially happened to me at the time. So, all in all, I'll just go ahead and leave it as that. I had a double injury, which then led to another series of problems in my life. And these problems had to be taken care of thanks to the wonders of surgery. And so, that's pretty much just that. And I do in fact have some photos regarding this entire session as well, especially in the Fort Myers collection. In there you could basically see the toe being wrapped up in gauze or bandages and all that good stuff, as well as having some medicated ointments put onto it to help ease the pain at the time before the operation would be taking place. But all in all, that's just pretty much what that is. And I'm more than glad to be out of that whole entire mess, but who even knows? Here, well over a year later, after it first happened, of course, anything is possible, really. There could be a time where I might have, let's say, a spinal shatter. But wait, that actually does bring me to a time where that actually did happen. So you know what? A couple days from now, I'll go ahead and talk about the time that I had nearly broken my own back twice in the same year. So until that happens, if you want to see more, go down to my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.